On a cold, rain-soaked night, the desolate highway stretched out like an endless ribbon of darkness under the heavy cloak of the storm. The distant glow of flickering streetlights cast eerie shadows across the wet asphalt, setting a somber tone that seemed to foreshadow the unexpected. It was in this melancholic atmosphere that Ethan Carter, a retired firefighter whose weathered face told stories of battles fought and lives saved, drove his modest pickup truck along the lonely road. His graying hair, a testament to years of relentless service and sacrifice, caught the dim light as he navigated the slick surface with a cautious determination. Beside him, sharing the cramped confines of the truck's passenger seat, was Max, a noble German shepherd whose presence exuded both unwavering loyalty and a quiet, intense intelligence. Max's amber eyes, bright and alert even in the gloom, scanned the surroundings with an almost preternatural awareness, as if he sensed the latent tensions of the night. His ears twitched at every subtle sound, the whisper of the wind, the distant hum of passing vehicles, and even the soft patter of raindrops against the metal body of the truck. Together, Ethan and Max embodied a deep, unspoken bond forged through years of shared hardship and silent understanding. While Ethan's mind often wandered back to his days battling fierce blazes and rescuing those in peril, his thoughts now rested on a fragile hope for a peaceful journey home, a hope that the night would grant them a reprieve from past ghosts. However, even as the truck hummed steadily along the empty road, the sense of foreboding in the air hinted that the tranquility they yearned for was merely a fleeting illusion. In that moment, the stage was set for a tale of resilience, trust, and the extraordinary connection between a man and his devoted canine companion, each pulse of the rain echoing the silent promise of a bond that would soon be tested beyond measure. In the midst of that quiet, rain-drenched night, the calm was shattered in an instant. As Ethan's truck glided along the dark highway, the serenity of the journey was brutally interrupted by the piercing glare of oncoming headlights. In a heartbeat, a speeding vehicle emerged from the darkness, a brilliant flash of white and red that seemed to tear through the veil of night. The sound of the approaching car, its engine roaring with an almost predatory intensity, sent a surge of adrenaline through Ethan. Before he could even register the impending danger, the world around him transformed into chaos. Ethan's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as he frantically fought to control the truck, but the slick road offered no mercy. The tires screeched against the wet asphalt, a desperate sound that mingled with the relentless patter of the rain. In a horrifying moment, the truck careened wildly, its trajectory veering uncontrollably as it crashed through the guardrail. The collision was both sudden and devastating, an explosion of shattering glass and crumpling metal that echoed across the empty highway. Inside the truck, time seemed to slow down. The violent impact sent shockwaves through every inch of the vehicle, turning the interior into a swirling chaos of debris and pain. Ethan, once at the helm of his own fate, was thrown into a disorienting void of rattling metal and piercing anguish. The force of the accident left the world in disarray, a stark contrast to the fleeting moments of calm that had preceded it. Outside, the relentless rain blurred the line between reality and nightmare, as if nature itself mourned the sudden rupture of peace. In that split second of catastrophe, every second felt stretched to infinity. The vivid flashes of disaster, skittering sparks, a cacophony of broken sound, and the raw, unfiltered terror of impending doom etched themselves indelibly into the night. What had begun as a quiet journey was now transformed into a desperate battle for survival, setting the stage for an ordeal that would test the limits of human resilience and the unyielding loyalty of a faithful companion. In the aftermath of a harrowing collision, chaos reigned inside the battered truck. Amidst the groans of twisted metal and the shattering of glass, Max's instinct kicked in. Though he too had borne the brunt of the accident, the loyal German shepherd pushed through the haze of shock and pain. His eyes, glowing with both concern and a fierce determination, scanned the wreckage where Ethan lay motionless, blood seeping through his shirt. Max could sense the urgency, the precious seconds slipping away, and knew that waiting was not an option. With every ounce of strength, Max mustered the courage to abandon the relative shelter of the cab. His paws, still trembling from the impact, pounded against the rain-soaked pavement as he raced away from the chaotic scene. The dog's focused strides were punctuated by desperate barks and whimpers, each sound an urgent plea for help. Guided solely by his love for Ethan, Max navigated the dark, rainy road, determined to find a savior who could mend the fractured life of his beloved owner. The relentless downpour blurred the surroundings, yet Max's keen senses pierced through the murk. Every splash against the wet asphalt became a beacon of hope, propelling him forward. It was as if the storm itself recognized his resolve, urging him onward. His journey, fraught with obstacles and the cold bite of the rain, was driven by an inner fire, a commitment to rescue the man who had once been his protector. Each desperate bark carried a message of urgency, reverberating through the night and breaking the eerie silence that had followed the accident. Max's unyielding determination eventually led him to the side of the road, where a solitary police cruiser sat parked under the intermittent glow of streetlights. The sight of the cruiser kindled a spark of hope in the loyal canine's heart. Without a moment's hesitation, Max charged towards the vehicle, his frantic barks and insistent nudges echoing against the stormy night. In that pivotal moment, his actions transcended the realm of instinct and transformed into a silent vow he would not allow his owner to be abandoned to the darkness. His journey for help had begun, fueled by a bond that no catastrophe could sever. In the midst of the downpour and despair, hope arrived in the form of a steadfast figure, Officer Luke Reynolds. The dim glow of the police cruiser, parked on the side of the rain-slicked road, cut through the darkness like a beacon. As Max charged toward the cruiser with his frantic barks, Luke was already on high alert. His eyes, sharp and observant, took in every detail, the drenched German shepherd tugging insistently at his sleeve and the palpable urgency in the animal's gaze that spoke of unspoken tragedy. Without hesitation, Officer Luke knelt beside Max, his practiced calm and gentle manner disarming the tension of the night. Max's desperate nudges and barks painted a vivid picture of distress. He was not just any stray, but a loyal companion seeking salvation for his owner. Realizing that the situation was far graver than it appeared, Luke's instincts propelled him into action. He swiftly followed the direction of Max's determined gaze toward the dark, rain-shadowed highway, where the twisted wreck of Ethan's truck lay, hidden among debris and shattered glass. Approaching the accident scene, Luke was met with a tableau of devastation. The truck, now a mangled mess of metal and broken dreams, bore silent testimony to the fury of the impact. Amid the chaos, Ethan's form was barely discernible, a figure marred by blood and immobility. Yet, even in that dire state, the scene was punctuated by the quiet heroism of Max, whose presence brought a glimmer of hope amid the ruin. With professional urgency, Luke radioed for backup, his voice steady but imbued with a sense of critical immediacy. Each command was precise, a lifeline thrown into the turbulent sea of disaster. As the first responders began their meticulous efforts to extricate Ethan from the wreckage, Luke's attention never wavered from Max. The devoted dog remained at his side, his gaze unwavering, silently urging him to move faster, to act with the speed that might save a life. In that charged moment, the bond between man and animal was undeniable. Officer Luke, embodying both authority and empathy, and Max, fueled by unyielding loyalty, together forged a path out of the nightmarish scene. Their combined resolve transformed a moment of desolation into the first vital step toward redemption and recovery. As the rescue team advanced with hydraulic cutters and emergency equipment, the relentless drizzle of rain was momentarily forgotten, replaced by the unified heartbeat of hope, a hope that would soon pave the way for the battle against fate itself. At the accident scene, the devastation was all too evident. The once solid truck now lay mangled against a guardrail, its twisted metal and shattered glass strewn haphazardly across the rain-soaked road. Amidst the wreckage, Ethan was barely visible, a figure battered by the impact, his body contorted and blood staining his clothing. Every ragged breath he took was a desperate plea for survival, as the overwhelming silence of the aftermath was punctuated by the distant, rhythmic patter of rain. In the heart of this chaos, Max remained a steadfast sentinel. The loyal German shepherd never left Ethan's side. He stayed close, gently licking Ethan's hand in a silent yet profound act of reassurance. The dog's eyes, shimmering with equal parts determination and sorrow, bore witness to the unyielding bond between them. His soft whimpers and low, constant murmurs seemed to whisper a promise that he would not let his beloved owner fade away into the darkness. Officer Luke Reynolds, having arrived moments earlier with the aid of Max's urgent guidance, worked with unyielding focus amid the confusion. His voice cut through the ambient din as he coordinated with the arriving rescue team, issuing clear and precise commands. Hydraulic cutters were brought to bear on the crushed remains of the truck, their mechanical roar harmonizing with the natural sound of the night. Every second counted, and Luke's steady demeanor was a critical anchor in the sea of uncertainty. The combined efforts of the emergency responders, guided by the resolute determination of both man and beast, slowly began to shift the tide. Ethan's condition, although critical, was not yet beyond hope. As the team delicately extricated him from the vehicle, each careful movement was underscored by an urgent determination to save a life. In the midst of the chaos, Max's presence was a quiet constant, a living testament to the power of loyalty, providing comfort in an atmosphere thick with pain and uncertainty. As the rescue operation unfolded, the accident scene transformed from a tableau of destruction to a beacon of resilience. Despite the overwhelming odds and the relentless rain, the unwavering commitment of those present, Officer Luke, the rescue team, and most poignantly Max, ensured that hope was not lost that fateful night. In the sterile brightness of the hospital corridor, as the urgent sound of the rescue began to fade into a tense calm, another unsettling truth began to emerge. While Ethan was rushed into emergency surgery and doctors scrambled to stabilize his critical condition, murmurs of discrepancies at the accident scene started to surface. Medical staff and first responders noticed small, yet glaring, anomalies in the wreckage, skid marks that ended abruptly and brake lines that had shown signs of deliberate tampering rather than mere mechanical failure. As the rescue team continued their delicate work, Officer Luke Reynolds, ever meticulous in his investigations, began piecing together fragments of evidence that hinted at a far more calculated act than a simple, tragic mishap. In quiet, urgent conversations over the phone and between staff in the dimly lit waiting room, it became increasingly apparent that Ethan's accident bore the hallmarks of an engineered disaster. The forensic details, the precise angle of the impact, the uncharacteristic skid pattern, and the inexplicable malfunction of the brake system all painted a disturbing picture of intentional sabotage. Simultaneously, the hospital buzzed with a tense urgency when the financial constraints of Ethan's treatment came to light. A doctor, with a grave tone, explained that while Ethan's injuries were severe, the full cost of his surgery could not be covered by his insurance without significant financial backing. This revelation only deepened the mystery. Was this accident orchestrated with the knowledge of Ethan's vulnerabilities? Could there be a connection between the inexplicable brake failure and the looming threat of financial ruin? Officer Luke's investigation began to unravel threads that reached far beyond a mere traffic accident. Delving into Ethan's past, he discovered that before his retirement, Ethan had confronted perilous situations during a massive industrial fire, a cataclysm that had not only tested his mettle, but had also embroiled him in the darker undercurrents of corruption and deceit within the ranks of the local authorities. Rumors of unresolved conflicts and whispers of hidden enemies emerged, hinting that someone might have had a personal vendetta against him. As these unsettling clues converged, Max, ever the silent sentinel, remained by Ethan's side. The loyal German shepherd's persistent whimpers and watchful gaze seemed to echo the growing realization that this was no accident. In the quiet moments, between the relentless beeping of hospital machines and the hushed consultations of the medical team, Luke and Ethan shared a look laden with unspoken questions. The gravity of the evidence weighed on them both. Someone had deliberately tampered with Ethan's truck brakes, setting into motion an insidious plan that went far beyond a simple road mishap. The atmosphere in the hospital grew charged with determination and foreboding as the layers of the conspiracy began to peel away. Amidst the sterile corridors and the urgent murmur of medical interventions, a deeper, darker narrative was coming into focus, a narrative that threatened not only Ethan's life but also the integrity of a justice system already marred by corruption. The stage was now set for a relentless pursuit of truth, one that would require every ounce of courage from Ethan, his steadfast companion Max, and the unwavering resolve of Officer Luke Reynolds. As the hospital settled into a fragile calm following the emergency, a new wave of unease began to ripple through its sterile corridors. Just when the staff thought the night's horrors were behind them, the sound of a soft knock shattered the temporary silence in the room where Ethan lay recovering. The heavy hospital door creaked open, and two men dressed in dark, tailored suits slipped into the room without any identification or official credentials. Their presence was immediately unsettling, a stark contrast to the orderly chaos that had characterized the rescue moments before. Officer Luke Reynolds, always vigilant, sensed that something was amiss. His eyes narrowed as he observed the intruders, whose expressions were unnervingly composed yet masked an air of cold calculation. They began to ask vague, probing questions about the accident and Ethan's condition, their voices low and measured, as if they were reciting a rehearsed script. The tension in the room escalated palpably. Every word they spoke seemed to carry an unspoken threat. Max, the ever-faithful German shepherd, instantly recognized the danger. His normally calm demeanor gave way to a raw, protective ferocity as he stepped forward, his body tensing and his ears flattening against his head. The dog's amber eyes, usually so full of unwavering loyalty and gentle warmth, now burned with fierce determination. With a guttural snarl that resonated like a warning bell, Max positioned himself squarely between Ethan and the intruders, his presence a silent yet potent declaration that he would not allow any harm to befall his master. In that charged moment, Officer Luke moved swiftly to assert control. His voice cut through the tension as he ordered the intruders to step back, eyes fixed on every subtle movement they made. The standoff was brief but intense, a palpable clash between those who sought to hide in the shadows and the resolute forces of justice represented by Luke, Ethan, and Max. The intruders' carefully guarded composure cracked just enough for a glimpse of their ulterior motives. One of them hesitated as if reconsidering his next move, and in that instant, Max seized the opportunity. With a burst of unrestrained energy, the dog lunged, intercepting one of the men as he reached for a concealed weapon. The hospital room erupted in a flurry of controlled chaos. The man's hand froze mid-motion, and a sharp command from Luke brought the situation under immediate control. The intruders, now exposed and visibly rattled by Max's unexpected intervention, slowly raised their hands in a gesture of surrender. The tension that had hung over the room for those agonizing seconds began to ebb, replaced by a heavy sense of foreboding. As Luke cuffed the apprehensive figures, he rifled through one of their pockets and discovered a glowing phone displaying a cryptic message: "If you fail, retreat immediately. Leave no trace." The message was a stark reminder that the conspiracy ran deeper than anyone had imagined. The confrontation left everyone in the room shaken. Ethan, still weak but slowly regaining consciousness, looked at Max with a mixture of gratitude and lingering disbelief. The protective canine had once again proven that his loyalty was more than a simple instinct. It was a fierce, unyielding force standing between his master and the dark secrets that sought to envelop their lives. As Officer Luke escorted the subdued intruders away, the echoes of Max's determined snarl and the gravity of the discovered message cast long shadows over the hospital corridors. The battle for truth had taken another ominous turn, and now more than ever, the stakes were alarmingly clear. Ethan's survival, and perhaps much more, depended on uncovering the full extent of the conspiracy. In the days that followed the tense confrontation, the truth began to emerge from the shadows. With incriminating evidence collected from the intruders, a cryptic text message, and discreetly recorded conversations, the investigation took on new urgency. Officer Luke Reynolds, determined and resourceful, worked closely with forensic experts and tech specialists to trace the origin of the encrypted message. Slowly but surely, the threads of corruption and betrayal began to unravel, exposing a network of deceit that had aimed not only to silence Ethan but to bury the truth behind a web of cover-ups. Back at the hospital, Ethan's condition steadily improved under the care of a dedicated medical team, even as the dark specter of the conspiracy loomed over him. Surrounded by compassionate nurses and supportive doctors, he underwent a marathon surgery that tested both his physical limits and his indomitable spirit. Throughout the long, arduous hours, Max never left his side, his vigilant eyes watching the closed door of the operating room as if guarding a secret promise of survival. When the surgery finally ended, relief rippled through the hospital corridors. News of the breakthrough in the investigation spread quickly. Local authorities had arrested Lieutenant Eric Dawson and his associates, a key turning point that confirmed suspicions of police corruption and intentional sabotage. The public outcry, bolstered by thousands of donations and supportive messages from across the community, reaffirmed that justice was not a distant dream but a tangible outcome that could be achieved when truth prevailed. On the day of his discharge, Ethan sat on the worn wooden steps of his front porch, the early morning light casting a gentle glow over his face. In his hands, he clutched a freshly printed newspaper with the bold headline announcing the fall of the corrupt officials. Max, ever loyal and full of exuberant energy, rested contentedly by his side, his head nudging against Ethan's leg as if to say, "We made it through together." A soft smile spread across Ethan's face, a mix of gratitude, relief, and quiet resolve. He knew the road ahead would still be fraught with challenges, but in that moment, the warmth of justice and the healing power of love made everything seem possible. Officer Luke's reassuring words echoed in the background, a promise that the fight for truth would continue until every loose end was tied. Yet, amidst the lingering echoes of past fears, there was a new beginning, a life reclaimed from the clutches of despair, and a future where the bond between man and his best friend stood as a beacon of hope. As Ethan gently patted Max's head, he felt an overwhelming gratitude for the silent hero who had saved His life not once, but twice. First by summoning help when all seemed lost, and then by standing guard through the darkest hours. Together, they looked forward to a chapter defined by resilience, justice, and the unbreakable bond of loyalty.